What if I wake up happy? And what if I wake up sad? Sorry if I said something that made you mad. Wishing that I could call you. Sorry my service bad. My bad. When I wake up you're not next to me. Guess I'm missing all your energy. That's all I want. Promise I am not your enemy. I just need another memory. That's all I want. 'Cause all I want is you. Is you. It takes two. 'Cause all I want is you. Is you. It takes two. All I want is you. Tell me, does a flower in the shade ever feel a little jealousy? Does it ever go away? All I want is you to answer me right now. Just dance with me right now. Just dance with me right now. When I wake up you're not next to me. Guess I'm missing all your energy. That's all I want. Promise I am not your enemy. I just need another memory. That's all I want. 'Cause all I want is you. Is you. It takes two. 'Cause all I want is you. Is you. It takes two. All I want is you. Is you. It takes two. 'Cause all I want is you. Is you. It takes two.
Hello everyone, how's it going? So, where are we now? So, I'm going to give you guys a quick update. It is the day after in which I have gotten my tattoo, and so far this is probably the biggest piece that I have. This is also my, I want to say 10th tattoo. Never thought the day I would say I have 10 tattoos. So, but this is what it currently looks like, upside down, of course. It still has a strap on. I usually keep it on for at least 2 to 3 days before I take it off in the shower. So I'm pretty excited about this one. I love it already. It's the biggest piece that I have. So beautiful. I love the work that Dan has done. I will leave his Instagram so you guys can check it out down below. Check out his work. He's incredible and amazing. So you can follow him and check out to see if he will ever be in your area or your location and hit him up. I want to say he does a lot of black work, like surrealism and also realistic artwork as well. Also, tonight's really exciting because the first season of The Shadow and Bone on Netflix comes out at midnight tonight PST. I am so excited because I will be binging all 8 episodes tonight. Don't know what to really expect. I read the books such a long time ago. I can barely remember anything at all even. And I know that they've made some critical changes with the books so that they can incorporate the Six of Crows Duology story together with the Shadow and Bone series. I do have somewhat high expectations though because I've seen quite a number of reviews detailing and highlighting how good it is. But my thoughts on that is that they didn't really know what to expect either as well because they don't have the full scope, the knowledge, the background from the books. I don't think I will be vlogging in between each episode because I think I just want to plow through straight on them. Joy? Something happened?
He's here.
Oh, alright guys, I will be right back. It's the DoorDash. He's coming down to get food, so I will talk to you guys later.
Sorry.
내 여자친구야 어쩜 뭐 할까 baby 내 여자친구야 hey 여자친구야
Hello everyone, it is now currently 12:15 a.m. You know what that means? It's Shadow and Bone time. So, gonna play the first episode, see how it goes. Got my snacks ready. I am not ready. Alright guys, hello. It is like currently 1 something, but I just finished episode 1. And so far so good. I really liked the way they tied in some elements of surprise that brought the Six of Crows characters and the Grishaverse all together again. So far I think it's good. The acting is a little wonky with some of the characters, but that's okay. I mean, I feel like all the actors are trying to find their footing in the series overall, and I'm pretty sure it'll get better over time. So far, the characters that stand out most to me is Alina, Mal, and Kaz. I'm curious to see how these characters develop and everything, and how the story progresses from here. So it's just surreal and nostalgic seeing the characters in the story on the screen, especially within the first episode. So I heard through some reviews that episode 5 is where things really kick off into gear with all these twists and turns, so I'm really excited and looking forward to that episode. With that being said, let's get into it, and I will see you guys on the flip side. Not sure if I will do reviews after each episode, I think, unless something drastic happens, but other than that, flying straight on through. So I finished. Oh my god, I look... Well, you're gonna get messy Ellias for the next 5 minutes or so. So, it is currently 7:23 a.m. in the morning. I finished the whole season in one go. It's been a while since I binged a whole series like this in a long time. So, well, I look pretty frazzled. Anyways, just want to quickly give you guys my overall thoughts and impressions before I sleep and contemplate on it more in-depth review when I'm like more awake and just more coherent in my thoughts. Overall, I really enjoyed it. I had some expectations going in just because of all the reviews and the buzz that I've seen just from critics and reviewers alike are saying that the show actually surprised them, and I think that it surprised them in a good way just because they didn't really know what to expect, especially, you know, coming from the books. However, as a reader myself, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was really enjoyable and also accessible in a way where if you aren't a reader, if you don't know this world, you know, any of the story, the characters in general, I think that if you stick with the show past probably episode 3, you're probably set. Not gonna lie though, in the beginning, like the first 3 episodes, say were a bit sluggish, a bit on the slow start to get invested in these characters. However, I feel like if you stick out with this one, and especially after episode 5, which is essentially in the middle of the series, it gets really good. I really love the way that they handle certain storylines with these characters, even though the books themselves with these different characters all set apart, but they decided to mash all the characters into one storyline, and I really loved basically all the interactions. It was honestly a lot of Easter eggs, a lot of nostalgia, I guess, especially for readers, seeing their characters alive on screen. It was just surreal. I loved the casting choices for each and every single character, but Kaz, Inez, and Jasper, it was great. Seeing our beloved trio on screen, like it was just magic, I tell you, magic. I just wish that there was some more backstory, I guess, on the crows themselves in the show, just because I think if you're like a new viewer just to this world and the characters themselves in general without having any prior knowledge, a backstory of where the series could go. I'm pretty excited because there are some new things that were introduced that I'm curious to see how it would play out in the second season. And a garbage truck just drove by and it's going to be making a ton of noise now, so I'll have to wait for that. Just morning things. So overall, my initial rating for the show is a strong 7.5 out of 10. There were some things I didn't like, sort of like the transitions between certain story points or settings. It was just sometimes really weird. The pacing was off. It was just really abrupt sometimes. It was just some parts of each episode that I noticed. And also there were a lot of like convenient things that happened that allow these characters to witness an event or a person doing something or bumping into each other for, I guess, story and plot sake, which is fine, I guess, but I wish that it was maybe, I don't know, explored more or expand upon, just because, like, for example, there's a scene that happens, however, you, the viewer, are responsible to make conclusions to these concepts or points or whatever to that point in the story. Other than that, just nitpicking, I guess. Really excited to see, hopefully, what the future will hold for this whole world, the characters, the story in general. I want to head off to bed now, probably die for the next, I don't know, 8 to 10 hours. We'll sleep upon this and contemplate all my thoughts and feels into a more coherent in-review, a non-spoiler, of course. I'll talk to you guys later. Good night. Hello everyone, how's it going? So after a good day's rest, I have finally formulated my thoughts, hopefully coherently, in this review. So it is currently 6:51 a.m. PM, 6:51 p.m. I woke up a couple hours ago, so my whole day is pretty much gone. Just wanted to give you guys just a really quick, non-spoiler rundown through my in-depth review of Shadow and Bone. Overall, I think as a show, as far as book-to-movie adaptations go, this one is killer. This one is extremely strong in terms of adaptation, characters, and story. I loved the different changes that they brought from the books into the TV show. I think that in a way, it's a bit stronger than the books even in general, especially Shadow and Bone trilogy. I do love the fact that they brought in characters from the spin-off series, the Six of Crows Duology. I do know that the duology takes place, I can't even remember I don't know, but it does take place after the events of Shadow and Bone. So I think I'm going to stick with my initial rating, which was a strong 7.5. I do want to answer a quick question that I've been getting a lot on my Instagram. After a lot of you guys have been watching my Instagram stories, have been asking me if you need to read Six of Crows or finish the trilogy to watch the Shadow and Bone show. So here's my overall thoughts on that aspect. I do think if you have read at least Shadow and Bone, you're pretty much okay to watch the show. However, if you are more or less, pretty much less inclined to read the rest of the books in the trilogy, I would say you can probably skip it. If you really want to just go ahead and dive into Six of Crows, for me, just to give you guys a little background, I read the whole trilogy. And while I wasn't a complete fan of the characters, which annoyed the fuck out of me, Alina and Mal especially, I didn't really see the appeal of the Darkling, for that matter, in the books. If I had read the books currently in this day and age, like today, currently, presently, I know for a fact I would have probably rated 2 or 3 stars. Just because when I read it, it was like, what, 5 years ago? So, and then the Six of Crows duology came out, and I only read the first book in the duology. I still have yet to read Crooked Kingdom. After watching the show, I think I will reread both of the books in the duology because they are just much more superior than the trilogy, in my opinion. Bottom line is, can you skip the trilogy in of itself, essentially, even if you haven't read the first book, to watch the show? I would say from the reviews that I've read and from the people who haven't read the books, who have watched the show, they have enjoyed it, you know, in that aspect. I think if you want to feel that extra connection, that extra magic of seeing these characters brought back to life in the story, in the setting, in this world, I would actually really recommend at least reading the first book in the Shadow and Bone trilogy. From there, you can skip the other 2 books in the trilogy and go straight into the Six of Crows duology, if you really wanted to. I think I first stumbled upon them at like a Barnes & Noble, and I thought the cover looked really interesting. And it really reminded me of like Avatar: The Last Airbender in Imperial Russia. I know that some people heavily disagree with that statement regarding Avatar, but that is what it is for me personally. That being said, I briefly want to talk about and mention about my favorite characters in the show in general. So why did I just give you guys the rundown on the books in general? Just because I sort of want to talk about the characters and how they're sort of pivotal, I guess, to the connection that I felt, that I had regarding watching the show. I could not believe that the show turned me into a Melina shipper. That was wild to me. I thought literally I could care less about their romance, especially in the books. Didn't really vibe with the characters. Alina and Mal annoyed the fuck out of me, and didn't really see the appeal for the Darkling. In fact, in a way, they sort of humanized his character, which I think was a really interesting take from the books. Going back, Melina and Mal, they're just, I think it's the actors themselves. They just brought so much charisma and energy and just different vibes overall that really fit well with the characters that they portrayed. I love that. I love their relationships together. Speaking of relationships, another relationship that truly surprised me in the best way possible was Nina and Matthias. So Nina and Matthias are in the Six of Crows books. However, if you're like a new viewer, you might wonder what sort of element they bring to the show in general. Their roles are pivotal in the Six of Crows duology. Again, I only read the first book, but watching Nina and Matthias on screen was such, I don't know, it's just their pairing together. The actors who played them, it was just elevated beyond the books. In the books, when I read Six of Crows, didn't really care for Nina or Matthias in that regard. However, watching the show, I think they topped Melina for me in general, just because I was so utterly surprised at their characters and the development that they brought on. It was just really great. Nina especially, I loved her. She was incredible and amazing in this role, way better than her book counterpart. So story-wise and pacing, it's easily bingeable. Very back-to-back, fast-paced as they end on cliffhangers. However, it's on episode 5 that things really take a turn for the better. So if you haven't read the books but you're into fantasy, give the show a go. Acting themselves may not be the best or the greatest, but we're really not here for that in general. We're here for the characters and the story overall. Overall, the ending of the show is fantastic. I am truly excited to see where they will bring the story forward, just because it's all new territory now. All the characters are in the same setting, the same time frame. So it's really exciting to see all your faves intermingle and interact with each other in general. It was just a blessing to see. I think it's just something magical, wonderful to see the source material being adapted right, being adapted correctly. I know that Lee Bardugo was very hands-on on this whole project in general. I'm so glad that she did, because you can actually see the investment, the fruits of her labor and all this into the show. So yeah, that is pretty much it. Before I go though, I do want to mention that I did finish Every Value Break by Peter Swanson. I actually finished this whole entire book at my tattoo appointment. It took around roughly 3.5 hours to finish. This book was really interesting. It was wild, bonkers, confusing, annoying, extremely chaotic, and I'm really excited to discuss this book with you guys over on Kayla's channel. This is the book pick for this month, so I will see you guys over there, but I will save my rating because I have really interesting things to say about this one. You'll have to see if it really let me down, if I loved it, if I hated it. We'll see. they're not coming from any because they're not coming from a book source because they're not coming from a book source because they're not coming from because they're not coming from the book source or be, because they don't really have the knowledge because they don't really have the full scope of the knowledge that's